Hello YouTube, it is Chris here, and in today's episode we're going to be doing a full test and review of the Kukri by Tope knives. Stick with me. Welcome back everybody, and thank you for sticking with me. Like I said, man, today we're going to be taking a look at the Tope knives Kukri. And oh my gosh, this thing is a monster! Now, for anybody who's been following my channel for any length of time from the beginning, I love Kukris. I've done plenty of videos on them. And what I love about Kukris is overall, man, it is the closest to a one knife can do it all function that I have ever come across. In my years and years of knife designing, playing with knives, using knives, this knife is, the Kukri is just a beast. And the most perfect analogy I've ever come up with when it comes to a Kukri is, the Kukri is an elephant. And what I mean by that, yes, it is massive and powerful. It can basically destroy the forest, roll over cars, do all that crazy stuff, but it has the finesse and the delicate nature to still be able to handle light, detailed work. Just like an elephant. An elephant can literally flip cars, trash villages, just steamroll when it needs to assert its authority. But then when it's being gentle and kind, it's got the ability to do things like pick a flower. And that's what I mean. It has a very versatile skill set that not a lot of massive knives do very well outside of the Kukri that I've tested so far. Now, like I said, there's plenty of awesome knives out there, but we don't want to detract. I love the Kukri. It's a timeless design. It's been made for hundreds and hundreds of years, and there are hundreds of renditions. This rendition is an American version made by a maker called Dan Tope of D-Tope Knives, LLC, or Tope Knives is what I was commonly referred to. I've tested a bunch of them. We just got back from a 5-day adventure about a week ago, where we tested the Hellcat. You guys are going to be seeing that bad boy in the field for an entire week. But this particular video is all about the Kukri. This thing is sporting an 11-inch blade, quarter-inch thick slab of CPM 3V. It has a beautiful saber grind with a very razor-sharp edge. However, that razor-sharp edge is still powerful enough to handle some really, really tough work. And what we decided to do with this particular knife, instead of going in a backyard and doing just hacking and batoning and making it silly, we decided to take this out for an entire weekend and do things from building our shelters, processing woods, and taking a lot of the constructive criticism we got from our videos from our 7-day $100 Walmart survival challenge and improving upon our primitive shelter techniques and building a better version of that. We wanted to put this thing through the ringer because we think that Kukris deserve to just be brutalized and punished and just used over and over and over in any way we can think of. Now, as I said, calling Kukris an elephant, it needs to be able to do a lot of tasks. I needed to be able to do fine detail work. I needed to be able to hit really freaking hard. And so that's what we did. We took this thing out into the field and we're chopping down small dead to standing trees, which it performed with absolute grace and ease because of the saber grind that's on this thing, the quarter-inch slab of 3V. It is a very hefty knife, but it can still move in your hand relatively quickly. This particular one is rocking a very ergonomic, beautifully designed G10 handle scales, which the fit and finish on this thing is absolutely flawless. I love this type of comfortable handle scale. It sits in your hand really well. It doesn't want to rotate on you at all because of the way it has a more rectangular yet rounded off shape, and the way the contouring of that handle shape, it sits in your hand, it locks in, and does not want to leave. And that's very important when you're swinging around a big massive knife like this. Now, the reason I love Kukri so much, it's just a timeless freaking design. It just has that big, huge, sweeping, nasty curve. So when you're biting into big, huge trees, it just takes it and owns it. We decided to take this thing and baton down. Now, I do thinking batoning firewood makes no sense at all. But if you're doing building tasks, batoning woods to get flatter planes of wood or kind of form the wood where you need to, it's a very, very important task for a knife to be able to do. And this Kukri, man, we batoned some thick pieces of hardwood, big, huge, hardy pieces of mesquite. It just ripped right through it like it wasn't even there. And then when we transversed over, as we were moving through the weekend, we needed it to help us start a fire so we could get our meals cooked and do all that stuff. The spine is really freaking sharp. They put a really nice 90-degree spine on there. So when I was actually just taking the spine to get some of the most detailed versions of shavings I could possibly come up with, it just scraped those shavings off of the wood very, very, very well. And then when I needed it to use the fire steel to put that test, obviously, if you're going to want a 112 option, it's got to be able to light your fires for you. So it did that really remarkably. There was no issues on this knife whatsoever getting that types of jobs done. Something we can contribute to the Kukri design, why I love it so much, is it has this nice curved inward shape with the blade, and that allows it just sucks in the wood like a guillotine and really helps you just pull in those shavings really, really well. And then when it comes right back down to a big sweeping belly, that is where all your power comes from. That's where all the power strokes come in, your fine detail work. And then when you need a really strong tip for piercing or stabbing or making bow drill divots, whatever you need a tip for, it'll handle that. But because of the robust nature, that is a really stout tip that ain't going anywhere. Now, while we were taking some of our shelter, given the fact that it is now springtime, current day on this calendar, because we just filmed this past weekend, we took a lean-to shelter with design. We took the same basis that we did for our 7-day challenge back in January, and we rebuilt that shelter. And some improvements we made is we made the wood more densely compact, which means we needed some more wood. So obviously this thing chopping stuff down and handling business did no problems at all. But the improvements we needed to make is we need to be able to close off that shelter, prevent airflow, be able to trap in more body heat, prevent air, all those good things. One thing that we were able to do in the springtime that you can't do in the winter is being able to add things like foliage and grass, because everything is dead in the winter. There's nothing alive. With now being springtime, the grass is growing freaking 13 inches high. So we needed this to perform machete functions, which a big brutish knife sometimes just can't do because there's just too much meat behind the edge. But like I said, with the Kukri design, with the kind of a draw-in knife that can just handle all that fine detail work and the big sweeping belly, just every inch of this freaking knife is designed to slice and cut in some way, shape, or form. So we had to actually grab 3 humongous full bales, the full shamogs full of grass to be able to coat our shelter on the outside. This thing was able to slice through and kind of basically become a weed whacker. Did very, very machete-like functions with no problem. And that's something that with a 1/4 inch thick blade or thicker, you run into a lot of major slicey problems. There's not many knives that can do a lot of different things, and that's why I really enjoyed using this knife. Not only could I handle some very hard abusive tasks from chopping and batoning that's really usually very hard on a knife, and then being able to just do all these really delicate things, notch cutting, making steaks, doing all these things, it just did everything I needed it to beautifully. And yes, am I biased towards Kukris? Absolutely. So let's talk about the sheath for a minute. This is a gripe with some traditional Kukris that bothers me greatly, is it has kind of like a scabbard thing that is like wood filled and it has to pull out. Well, for me, sometimes I want quick access. So this was something that Dan Tope, I think, executed very, very well. One, it has double stitching inside the welt with the grommets that just is, the sheath ain't going nowhere for a very long time. That open back design is absolutely perfect because all I got to do is pull up just a little bit, and it doesn't cause me to have to take a huge 11-inch blade, pull it way up into the air, and risk stabbing myself in my kidney every time I need to pull out a 12-inch blade. Belt loop right here, you can fit absolutely any belt. This is literally a 3.5-inch loop, but because it is box stitched in, it isn't going anywhere. Now, something I've seen with leather sheaths is right here in this area, I've seen times where I have actually been worried about cutting the strap, hurting myself, but they put a big, huge, thick chunk of leather right here to make sure that the wear and tear that you receive from that blade with the open back design combination is just going to be able to do what it's got to do for a long time. My thing for a large knife is I need it to be able to hit hard. I need it to be able to build things I need to build. It needs to be able to chop, but it needs to also, because it's a large knife, give me some machete-like functions. This knife, the Kukri design, did that very, very well. And I need some light duty tasks done. Now, there is still obviously a place in my heart for really small companion knives, and having one's probably not a bad idea. Even after a full weekend, it is still razor sharp. If you really, really hone in on this thing, there is not a single ounce of edge damage at all, and it is frighteningly sharp. It will cut and slice hairs and papers still to this day. But that is because of the exceptionally high wear resistance of CPM3V, which is why having modern materials in a classic design I think is just amazing. But if you want to get more information about this knife, we're going to have a link down in the video description to Tope knives, and I believe this knife drops on the 20th of March. But that just us for now, and we love this Kukri. If you enjoyed the testing footage, the overview, the specs breakdown that we left in the video description for you, so you could go check out this knife, definitely give this video a big thumbs up, and share this out with your friends and family in your social media networks so we can keep growing, thriving, and making awesome videos for you guys. But that just about us for now. Hope you guys have an absolute wonderful day. I'm out.